Welcome back to Live Now from Fox. I'm Shawna, Khalafi. We are continuing to follow the latest in the search for Nancy Guthrie, the 84-year-old mother of Today Show host Savannah Guthrie. Authorities believe she was abducted from her home in Tucson, Arizona overnight on Saturday. It is now day 4 in the search. We have also heard about some unverified ransom letters. Police are also looking into that. And also tonight, a church in the Tucson area holding a gathering to pray for Nancy's safe return. We have Fox 10's Megan Spector, who was at that gathering tonight. She joins us live outside of Nancy's home with the latest on this. Megan?
Yeah, Shawna, well, it's quiet outside the home right now, but there are still so many questions about this heartbreaking situation. And as her family waits for a lot more answers, the Tucson community came together earlier tonight to pray.
We all are praying to God that she's safe and we find her.
A community united in hope. The people of Tucson leaning on faith as the search for Nancy Guthrie continues.
What we're here to do is to be supportive, and the Tucson community does that.
I think that it's very nice the way the community has showed up for her and showed its support. I think Savannah will probably always feel like this is home for her because of that.
The sheriff's department believes Nancy Guthrie, the mother of Today Show host Savannah Guthrie, was abducted from her Tucson home over the weekend.
Everyone knew Savannah's mom. Like, if there was anyone more famous here in Tucson than Savannah, it was Nancy.
Whether they knew Nancy for years or only by name, neighbors and friends are standing as one.
The reason I'm here, I'll start crying. I can't.
I used to work with Savannah.
Nancy and I worked together at the University of Arizona in the mid-90s to time she retired.
We're here to support our dear friend Savannah and her mom.
In a time of sadness and fear, the Tucson community comes together, waiting for answers and praying for Nancy's safe return.
We're all heartbroken. It's really affected everybody in our community. Imagine everybody in the nation. Savannah wants us to pray, and bingo, that's why we're here.
The Pima County Sheriff's Department is working with the FBI. Again, this is a very active investigation, and we will continue to follow this case very closely. But for now, we'll send things back to you, Shawna.
All right, thank you so much for that report, Megan. We also want to bring you something that just came in tonight. Savannah Guthrie, as well as her siblings, put out a video on social media asking for their mother's safe return, a plea from the family coming out tonight. We want to play that out for you now. This is that full video clip that was posted on social media just a few hours ago.
On behalf of our family, we want to thank all of you for the prayers for our beloved mom, Nancy. We feel them, and we continue to believe that she feels them too. Our mom is a kind, faithful, loyal, fiercely loving woman of goodness and light. She's funny, and spunky, and clever. She has grandchildren that adore her and crowd around her and cover her with kisses. She loves fun and adventure. She is a devoted friend. She is full of kindness and knowledge. Talk to her and you'll see.
The light is missing from our lives. Nancy is our mother. We are her children. She is our beacon. She holds fast to joy in all of life's circumstances. She chooses joy day after day. Despite having already passed through great trials of pain and grief, we are always going to be merely human, just normal human people who need our mom. Mama, if you're listening, we need you to come home. We miss you.
Our mom is our heart and our home. She is 84 years old. Her health, her heart is fragile. She lives in constant pain. She is without any medicine. She needs it to survive. And she needs it not to suffer. We too have heard the reports about a ransom letter in the media. As a family, we are doing everything that we can. We are ready to talk. However, we live in a world where voices and images are easily manipulated. We need to know, without a doubt, that she is alive and that you have her. We want to hear from you, and we are ready to listen. Please reach out to us. Mommy, if you are hearing this, you are a strong woman. You are God's precious daughter, Nancy. We believe and know that even in this valley, He is with you. Everyone is looking for you, Mommy, everywhere. We will not rest. Your children will not rest until we are together again. We speak to you every moment, and we pray without ceasing, and we rejoice in advance for the day that we hold you in our arms again. We love you, Mom.
Love you, Mom.
We love you, Mom. Stay strong.
We love you, Mom. We love you.
That was the video put on social media just a few hours ago by Savannah Guthrie and her siblings, asking for their mom's safe return. They also addressed those unverified ransom demands that we've been hearing about, saying that they need proof that they are real and that their mother, Nancy, is still alive. So for more on how all these factors are playing into the investigation, let's bring in Josh Schirard. He's a former police captain, also director of Byrna Law Enforcement. Thanks for being here with us.
All right, thanks for having me, Shawna.
So with your experience, you've supervised dozens of missing persons and kidnapping cases similar to this. Let's start with your reaction to that family plea that just came out a few hours ago. Is this something that investigators may have encouraged the family to put out? And they acknowledge those ransom demands, the unverified ransom notes. What did you take from that video as we watched it just now?
Honestly, I think investigators probably didn't have, kind of anything to do with this video. And I think one of the things that probably stood out to most people is that the family referencing these possible ransom demands and what they might have possibly said. And I think one of the key phrases here or key things here is that it's unlikely that even if these ransom notes or demands are fraudulent or not real, that, or even if they are, that they haven't been shared through law enforcement with the family. Obviously, they are just alluding to the fact that they realize that they exist by saying, they've heard rumors of ransom demands. They have not seen a note. They have not heard anything. And that might seem a little odd to most people, but what the public has to understand is that in the vast majority of abduction cases, be they children, adults, or either, is in almost 90% of those cases, it involves someone that the victim knew, someone that the victim was familiar with, and most often that's a family member. So it's unlikely that law enforcement is sharing any of that information, especially a possible ransom note or ransom information, with any of the family at this point. So probably a lot of the information, it's likely that a lot of that information that they're getting is in the same manner that we are, through media sources, through rumors, through inside sources that Savannah may have. So it's likely that this message, that this video was in response to a lot of those rumors that are going around, and honestly a plea to say, hey, if these rumors are substantiated, if this ransom note is in fact legitimate, if there is someone out there that knows that our mother is okay, that there's some sort of way to negotiate, we're here to do that, so that they understand that they want to talk to somebody. They just want any kind of verification that their mother is okay, is still alive, because from what we're getting from law enforcement and any sources out there, that is still completely unknown at this point.
Let's talk a little bit more about these unverified ransom notes. One of those was received by TMZ, and it was demanding a Bitcoin form of payment. How does a ransom demand change the how investigators approach the search? Also, how would they go about verifying that those ransom demands are legit?
You know, those are two very different pathways. And the first has to be the verification of legitimacy, right? I have a feeling that they've probably got more than one quote unquote ransom demand from different sources so far, especially in a high profile case like this, where you're involving a media personality, somebody that is very known to the American public. So first job is let's try to verify the legitimacy of this. And this is going to be through some follow-up, through some, negotiation, through some actual, talk, whether it's digital means or face-to-face or at least voice-to-voice for that matter. There has to be some sort of legitimacy, some proof of life, as everybody likes to use that term, so that they understand that they're dealing with a real person, a real entity, and can move forward from there. And then the second is understanding, if they can verify that legitimacy, is understanding what those demands are and kind of the motive behind those and the source behind those, so that we can start profiling who this person may be, what their real motives are, if it's not just monetary, like you said, Bitcoin, anything like that. It's very, once again, it's so unlikely that this is a random person that was just abducting a random person. One, adult abductions in the U.S. are incredibly rare. And the vast majority of those have to do with human trafficking, sex trafficking, which is mostly younger adults. The number of senior abductions in the U.S. is almost statistically zero. So, we've got to get to the bottom of the original motive here. What's really going on here? And if there is an actual hostage scenario or ransom demand or some sort of hostage situation here, really we need to start looking at that original motive and start negotiating and figuring out how to move forward, identify those that are involved, and see how we can get Nancy home safely.
And we constantly hear about how important time and urgency is in a case like this. We are now in day 4 of the search. So how significant is that? How might investigators be adjusting their approach at this time, now that 4 days has almost gone by?
When you look at abductions, when you look at that then kind of evolve into hostage situations, you start to realize that, and it's very, mind you, each situation is very nuanced, but you have to look at things very, very specifically. So when we're talking about a missing person, look, I understand that there's signs of abduction, that from what we're being told by law enforcement, that we have, certain evidence that exists that points to abduction, that an abduction is suspected, but really we don't have verification, at least not what we're being told by law enforcement, that this is a legitimate abduction. So we really still have to treat this as a missing person until we can prove otherwise. And in that case, time is one of the most critical factors. It's about throwing resources and assets at this issue and chasing down any possible lead that you can get, along with the help of the public and any other law enforcement resources that we can garner. Now, fortunately, we have a lot of those law enforcement resources to use right now. Obviously, the FBI jumped in very, very early. We have heard Border Patrol getting involved, and I think that is not for a lot of the reasons that some people would think with Border Patrol in the news right now. They have an incredible amount of boots on the ground, so to speak, especially in that area, in order to help with any kind of search when we're talking about missing persons. They also have some of the best ways to locate people, especially once again in that area so close to the border. There is a concentration of them there. So throwing those assets, throwing those resources at that until we can really definitively prove that this is an actual abduction, we're talking to a hostage taker, we can start negotiating. That's what really needs to happen from here on out, especially as we get later and later and these days keep ticking on. We need to focus on getting her home safely and trying to figure out the definitive cause and motives behind what's going on.
So, yeah, as we've heard, additional resources and agencies are coming in to help, including some of those federal resources, as you mentioned. But let's talk about how the investigation has gone so far. Some people have been critical about how it's been handled. Investigators opened up Nancy's home, and then earlier today, we want to pull up that video. They actually went back and put crime scene tape back up around the home. They were also investigating her daughter's home, Annie, and we saw them also in Nancy's garage investigating once again after opening up that crime scene and then putting the tape back up, as you can see right now this afternoon. The Pima County Sheriff also did not give a press conference today. This is all they put out today. This was on social media. They say at this point, investigators have not identified a suspect or person of interest in the case. Detectives continue to speak with anyone who may have had contact with Mrs. Guthrie. They also put another post out after some stations were outside the home watching them put that crime scene tape back up. They said that they were conducting a follow-up at the Guthrie home as well as in the neighborhood. So how do you feel, in your opinion and with your experience here, about how the investigation has been handled so far, some of those decisions that have been made? Is this pretty standard, or anything that sticks out to you about the decisions that have been made by investigators here?
Yeah, I look at this in kind of two different lights, and one is the investigation as we see it from the outside, right? So we only get a little small window into what investigators are, and especially the sheriff down there is allowing us to see, and is telling us to compare against what we would consider a standard investigation when it involves missing people and abductions. And then we're getting a little bit window into what they're communicating, right? He's come out with a few press conferences now, some statements, and unfortunately, a lot of that doesn't match from what I'm seeing from the outside looking in. He made some statements in the press conference yesterday about processing that scene and processing the house. And he said, we go in and we process the whole thing. And we do it just like we would do any case. And I can tell you from experience that no two crime scenes are processed the same way, and they shouldn't be. It would take you, if you went in to quote unquote process a crime scene and process the whole thing for anything that possibly could be going on, you'd be there for weeks, quite literally weeks, trying to swab every surface, to print every surface, to collect every fiber, to catalog everything. It would take days and days and days. So, and I think that's what we're seeing now, is they're going back in realizing, oh man, we have some possible new directions, some possible new testimony, some evidence. We need to look at certain different things. I think releasing the crime scene that early was a little premature. You really have to look at those crime scenes with a critical eye, depending on the evidence, the testimony, the witness statements, all the other pieces that you have available. Those help tell the story of what you should be looking for when it comes to physical evidence. And I think, once again, that we're seeing that now as they go back out. I also think that yesterday's press conference, unfortunately, brought up more questions than it did answers, which is why we're seeing a much more limited statement come out today instead of the same kind of Q&A that we saw yesterday. So I would hope that the investigation from here on and the communication of that investigation is going to be a little bit more targeted, and we're going to get a little bit better communication about what's being done as we step forward and with this investigation and with the search for Nancy.
We are expecting another press conference from the Pima County Sheriff. That's scheduled for tomorrow, 11 a.m. local time. That would be 1 p.m. Eastern. What do you think we can expect to come out tomorrow, or anything else that sticks out to you about this case?
I hope it's quelling some of these rumors that we're getting, whether they substantiate them or whether they throw them out with some evidence for us. But that this case has just been plagued with rumor from the onset. We heard earlier that the son-in-law was a quote unquote prime suspect. Where did that information come from? Is that substantiated? Do they have a person of interest? Are they developing a suspect? Do we have some more of the surveillance, video? Was that surveillance video actually available and collected by the police department, or was it destroyed prior to their arrival? These things that could help us locate Nancy. Generally in a missing person or abduction, police and law enforcement is very, very forthcoming with any possible shred of evidence, whatever they were last seen wearing, whatever they're commonly wearing, the places that they would commonly go, the vehicles that they may be found in, any possible information that could help the public assist in locating her would be put out very, very early, but we didn't get any of that. And there's reasons why, I'm sure, but we need to understand what those reasons are so that the public can once again kind of help direct their resources to assist law enforcement. Look, the vast majority of these cases, and a lot of cases that don't have to do with missing person abductions, but a vast majority of these cases are not solved by police officers. Yeah, they're eventually wrapped up and the case is tied up in a nice bow at the end by a police department, but it's solved and it's assisted by the public, by the community. They're the ones that are out there day to day. They see these people. They understand what's going on. Unfortunately, law enforcement can't be everywhere, but the community can. And enlisting their assistance is the only way to really get ahead and make sure that we make up that ground that we've lost in cases like this. So I'm hoping that the press conference tomorrow, we get a little bit more information, maybe some more evidence, and we can start really, really enlisting that public's help in this case.
Yeah, hopefully we get some good information that can help with the search, especially with so many eyes on this right now. The search for Nancy Guthrie now wrapping up day 4. Thank you so much, Joshua Schirard, the director of Byrna Law Enforcement, also former police captain. We appreciate you giving your input on this case.
Thanks for having me, Shawna.
Thank you. And as Joshua mentioned, President Trump putting this out on social media tonight, he said, I spoke with Savannah Guthrie and let her know that I am directing all federal law enforcement to be at the families and local law enforcement's complete disposal immediately. We are deploying all resources to get her mother home safely. The prayers of our nation are with her and her family. God bless and protect Nancy. So that coming out from President Trump announcing additional resources being sent to the Tucson area to assist in the search for 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie, the mother of today's show host, Savannah Guthrie. We will also continue to follow that. Again, a press conference is scheduled for tomorrow afternoon. We'll bring that to you live here on Live Now from Fox.